quiet smile and an oh well shrug of the shoulders, thinking I would get over it someday. But someday never came. The internet, however, did, and its information superhighway allowed me access to horses. A voyeuristic approach, I admit, but one which at least gave relief to some of my desire. I discovered a myriad of websites that listed horses for sale, and I haunted them all. I searched for paint horses, torturing myself looking at horses I knew I'd never own. Until one day in December, when I found a website owned by Sea Light Paint Horses in Imesville, Maryland. I immediately searched the foals page. There, my pulse quickened from a minor trot of anticipation to a full-blown gallop at finding so many paint foals, from weanlings to long yearlings. I was drawn to 3 in particular, 2 yearlings and a weanling, all beautifully marked and all fillies. My heart dropped into my shoes. On impulse, I phoned Kim Landis, the owner of Sea Light, although I felt as if I were doing something illicit. We chatted for nearly an hour about horses in general and her paints in particular, and I was thrilled when she invited me to visit. I told her about the fillies that had caught my eye. She said that all 3 were still for sale. The news was both a blessing and a curse. As much as I wanted to be horse shopping, realist Ron made an excellent point when he asked, simply and softly, "How could we afford a horse?" "So we'll just go for a drive," I said. "Look at pretty horses and that's all. We'll come home right after, I promise." I knew the truth, though. A few days later, we loaded our 2 corgi dogs into the back of the Jeep and began the 3-hour drive to Maryland, the home of my dream. Ron has a gift for keeping me leveled, so to speak. I am impulsive. Ron is pensive. It's been this way between us since we first met. I can see how this difference may cause grief in some marriages, but for us, it created a balance. While we drove, I chattered on about how beautiful these foals were, how much I couldn't wait until I saw them in person, how exciting it would be to raise and train a baby, and how sweet a paint's disposition is. Ron nodded a lot and spoke little. When we arrived, I was breathless, either from my incessant talking or overgrown excitement. We met Kim, her husband Chris, and the Sea Light gang. I felt like I'd found the Holy Grail, or like a 16-year-old who gets a brand new car for her birthday. All of my senses were on overload as I tried to absorb each of the dozen or more paints all at once. Then I saw her. "Oh my God, Ron! Look at her!" Ron followed my gaze. Off beside the run-in shed stood Sky, one of the black and white Overo fillies I had seen on Kim's website. "Wow," was all Ron could manage, and I had to agree. Large brown eyes looked at us from her blazed face. The side closest to us sported a white patch that nearly covered her ribs, and on her neck was what could only be described as a bleeding heart. Her 4 white socks were of varying lengths, but best of all, she seemed to be very well balanced in her conformation, her graceful neck tied perfectly into a powerful shoulder, and from her back came a strong hip and rear, giving her the perfect equine engine. As we stood looking at Sky, some of the youngsters became curious about the newcomers and warily approached us. Among them was Lacey, who promptly decided that she could fit in my back pocket. I gave her a pat and told her how pretty she was, all the while keeping an eye on Sky. "She wants things on her own terms," I whispered to Ron as I dipped my head toward Sky. "I like that." "You do?" "Uh-huh."